Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
All right. Here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies.
Good morning, Bill.
Good morning. Episode number 183. I'm actually kind of excited about today's episode.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not promising anything except you need to get paper and pencil, and this is not going to be a 5-minute ordeal because I'm going to introduce to you today some amazing stuff. And it's not deal structuring.
Okay.
So episode number 183, I'm going to get this because I think the last episode I announced was 180 something and it was the wrong number.
Oh, yeah. The lost episode.
Yeah. So here we go. Name of today's episode is Ending. Ending. What does ending mean?
Stopping. No longer happening. It's gone.
Perfect.
Never mind. Forget it. Ain't happening. Bye-bye.
Ending the cruel crisis on counterfeit real estate investors. How's that?
Sure, just go for it.
This is a personal goal of mine. Okay?
Uh-huh.
Here we go. If you're like most real estate investors, you started down the path of investing so you could be your own boss, making the money you desire, and live life on your own terms. I hear this all the time.
Oh, well, isn't that good for everybody? Don't we all wish we could do that?
Except
free as a bird.
But instead I'm going to do that again. But instead you got bogged down in the daily grind of figuring things out, or the minutia you didn't know was in the industry until you got going, which means you have probably spent truckloads of time and hard-earned cash and can't or won't turn back.
Both. Both.
Only to constantly get disappointed, searching for the endless stream of questions and continually hunting for cash. Even more important, you aren't making any or enough offers so you can have the right opportunities to get those big checks others flaunt around all the time. And they're out of your reach.
Isn't that frustrating, though?
Mm-hmm.
You think, well, this doesn't work. But wait a minute, that guy's doing it over there. Damn it.
Exactly.
What am I doing wrong?
Well,
what's wrong with me?
Well, here's the trouble with it.
What?
Problem is that it's not just one guy, so you can't say, well, that guy was special or this guy was that.
Lucky.
If you're anything like me, you'll be someplace and see someone and say, hell, if that guy can do it, I've got to be able to do it.
Yeah. What am I missing? What do I need to read? What rock do I need to turn over? Damn it.
Well, in this very, very, very unique podcast, this is going to be, I know I've said this before, and they are. I always deliver. It's going to be a very unique podcast. I'm going to go over some stuff you've never, ever heard of before.
Never.
No. And if you apply it as I explain it, which is not hard, you will get out of the mud and start soaring like an eagle if you actually take my advice.
Mm.
But I have a warning. You will need some paper and a pencil so you can take notes on this one, because I'm going to go over numbers and it has nothing to do with deal structuring.
Well, that's interesting when numbers don't have something to do with deal structuring.
Right.
Okay.
So here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I want to announce that this podcast will have content never, ever, ever before taught. It is very unique to me and only me, So once you hear what I'm about to teach you, I want reviews.
Or else we stop right now.
Yeah. And I want 100% kudos for what this amazing tool that I'm going to give you and share with you today.
That's really bold, Bill.
I want reviews. What's bold?
Well, you're asking for reviews and you haven't even delivered yet. That's very bold of you. You must be sure of yourself here.
Oh, I'm going to deliver. I'm going to deliver exchange and abundance like never, ever before. I promise.
Okay.
And a full disclaimer. It has nothing to do with the fancy deal structuring or a shiny object. It has to do with time management, completing the right tasks, and getting quick results because you are going to be able to jump to the front of the line once I show you how to do it in this episode. Let me explain. Do I have your attention?
Oh, I'm looking at you.
I know. You got that look in your eye.
I'm listening.
As an analogy, let's talk about the checkbook or a checkbook. It's usually the checkbook, but let's talk about the checkbook balance and the money going in and out of that checkbook.
Okay.
It doesn't take a genius or a PhD to know you can't write checks for more than the deposited amount, right?
Oh, that's the problem. That's what it is. Well, I have a friend, I think he's straightened out, but he used to go across the street, go to the ATM, see what the balance was, and start writing checks. But it didn't mean it, things weren't, evened out yet, right? So it wouldn't work out.
That's what most human beings do is they use checkbook balance accounting.
Uh-huh.
How much is in there and how much can they use?
Uh-huh.
And never really paying attention to what hasn't cleared or what hasn't processed or any of that.
Yep.
That's pretty common.
Mm-hmm.
So,
not in my family. My wife is a bookkeeper.
Right.
She looks at the pennies. So
if you wanna get a full education on how to do that, because there is a right way to do bank balance accounting, just go buy the book called Profit First, and you'll learn how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's by Mike something. Yeah, Midowowski.
Malakowicz.
Malakowski.
No, Malakowicz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I mean is you could deposit $1,000, right? And write checks for $2,000. You could do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But it won't last long. Sooner or later, you'll have those checks back at your front door with an irate person yelling and screaming at you and demanding you fix it.
Mm-hmm. Plus fees.
Right. Okay. Now keep this concept in your mind. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now think of this. Wouldn't it make sense this happens with your time?
Mm.
I mean, every day we get a deposit of 24 hours in our bank called a watch. Right?
Yep.
Here's my point. Just like the checkbook with a limited balance, how do you spend your real estate investing time? Let's say you're really serious about making real estate like a major income.
Mm-hmm.
Or a major source for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? A way for you to get to your goals. Right?
Yep.
And you deposit 20 hours per week into this real estate account. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Which for some, this is a huge deposit. Okay? Because you're juggling your job, a family, chores, rejuvenation time, rest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all have very complex lives these days, mostly because the world is a wonderful place. I mean, you could get on airplanes and be in places that, I mean, we're in Connecticut. I can go visit my family for the weekend at the right time for $300 because I can jump on an airplane for $150 each way And for $300, I could like go down there for the weekend and have a great old time. So transportation, right? I read a book. I don't remember the name of the book, but I read a book about an economist who used to work for Greenspan.
Yeah.
He was like his junior. And this guy made some...
Greenspan, the Fed Reserve director,
right.
a few years back.
Right.
Yeah.
So this guy had some phenomenal viewpoints on the economy. And one of them was the reason why America is so great and why our economy is so strong is because of our transportation ability.
Really?
The fact that we have roads and you could just get in a car and go anywhere. Like I could get in my car this afternoon and I could just go anywhere in the United States that I wanted to.
You know, that surprises me because you don't think of that because we have it every day.
Right.
We think, well, you know, other countries, they have cars, our planes go there, but it's not as easy for them to get. Well, certainly there's some places, definitely not. But
right.
So, yeah, we got it good.
So that makes our lives very different. It makes our lives a little bit more complex because we have aspirations that we used to not have. I mean, it used to be if you wanted to go to California, it was, you know, back in the gold rush days, it was a whole year by the time you got out there.
Yeah.
You know, now it's a whole 6 hours on an airplane.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That changes the complexity, you know, and you know, there's family and people do things, you know, like my family, my sister just moved to Florida, so I have no family here other than my kids, right? So for me to go to a family function now, I got to get on an airplane and I got to go to Florida, right?
Yeah.
Now, it used to not be that way, right? So, you know, the advent of cell phones and just the way we communicate, all I'm saying is our lives, though they seem to be getting easier, we have more choices to do things, and some of us have trouble with that, have trouble with making those choices. Right?
Yeah, and we expect to do all those things.
Well, we have more options.
Yeah, but we expect to also do them all, not
Right.
just sit back. We expect, didn't you go away for the weekend? Didn't you
Right.
do this? Did you go to the concert? Did you blah, 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 all these things? We expect to do them all.
Right. So I have found in my life, and maybe it's just because of the people I hang around with, you know, like I run a lot of events, especially for the church, right? And you know that.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm not being arrogant, but I'm really good at that. You know, that's like one of my talents that I try not to promote because I'm not, it's something I do and I'm really good at it because I've been doing it for many years, right? But it's not something I want to do. You know what I mean? So,
hey, the shows always look more fun from the seats.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of preparation to go. I mean, we do events like when I mean events, I'm talking about, I mean, I just did a New Year's Eve event with 100 people. I fed 100 people. I fed, you know, me and a couple girls that work with me, we fed 100 people and we did a whole event.
Yep.
New Year's Eve. And you were there.
Yep.
It was awesome.
I was happy.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I was real happy with it.
And that takes a lot of work. I mean, 80 to 85% of an event is, anyways, I don't know why I'm talking about that. So here's my point. Getting confirms to come to these events has brought this point that I'm making to fruition because people just don't hang around on the weekends anymore. Like, oh, I'm going to hang around and watch TV all weekend. And then you come along and say, oh, you know, let's do a real estate event. Oh, I'm not doing anything. Let me just come.
Sure, I got nothing else going on.
The number one thing that I run into with all my real estate events and church events is that people are just busy. They're busier. They always have something planned. You know, there's birthday parties and, you know, funerals and, you know, all kinds of stuff. You know, a lot of people do training, you know, like especially real estate people. I'm going to this seminar. I'm going to that seminar, you know. So all my point is that your life is your time is the most valuable thing you have because you have a lot to do. Okay. And no matter whose life and no matter what their basic purpose is in life or their passions that align to their basic purpose, they're pursuing that. And it's much easier to do that now, which gives them more things to do. So right now, we've walked right into the meat and potatoes of what I'm talking about. So now that we're right into the meat and potatoes of success or failure, and to make it simple, I'm going to break it up into two parts from this point forward so that you can easily follow along with some amazing results. Okay. So part 1, is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So part 1 is a real estate investor's time Bible and task tracker. Okay?
Time Bible, task tracker.
And task tracker.
Okay.
That's right. So, you know, I don't, no disrespect to the Bible, but it's like, it's the book.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Right? And here's what I have found. Emma, can you do something with this heater, please? It's burning my leg. So, thank you, sweetheart.
You can shoot some of it this way.
Just put it.
Tilt it.
Wait, yeah, thank you. So, what happens is you get somebody that is new or has made the conscious or unconscious decision, I'm going to do real estate. The reason why they decide they want to do real estate is because consciously or unconsciously, they have figured out that they could work once and get paid multiple times. And how many industries can do that? I mean, I think the only industry that I know of that can do that is like, publishing or songwriters or
sales that continue.
Yeah.
Recurring sales of something.
Like a music writer could get royalties.
Yeah.
So something that has the royalty aspect to it. And most people don't do that.
Right.
They're not creative or...
I'm going to write a book.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
So is everybody else.
And I was talking to a friend of mine last night about writing books. And what you don't realize is these guys that write these big books, they don't make their money on the book sales. They make their money on the royalties, because what they'll do is they'll go to Australia and sell their rights in Australia. Or they'll go to UK and they'll sell their rights in UK. And they'll sell their rights for like $100,000 or $5 million or whatever, depending on how big they are.
So not just the residual sales, just outright, here it is, give me the money, good luck.
I mean, the sales are good, but you don't make much on a book sale. I know, because I've got a bunch of books. I mean, I've ghostwritten 6 or 8 books for other people, and I've written my own 4 or 5 books. And I'm getting ready to launch it again. I had a plan last year. I want Amazon at least a dozen, preferably 2 dozen books on real estate. And my idea is that I make the books on specific topics so that you could read 50, 60 pages and get it on just that topic. Instead of making those topics chapter in a big book, because it'll take you longer to read the big book. The object is you can find what topic you're trying to get a solution for in real estate and read that book in an hour or 2 and get your answers.
Right.
And not have to have all the other stuff around it. And I'm going to do that because, in fact, I think I just hired someone to help me with that yesterday. Okay? So the point is that you make the decision, consciously or unconsciously, that I'm going to do real estate because real estate will give me more than one reward. Right?
That's right.
Yeah. And most people, I don't know if they realize it or not, but that's the reason why real estate is so appealing. And it's a safe reward. It's a safe thing because we've been doing it forever.
Yeah. Our house is safe. Kind of need them to live in.
Right. So exactly. So here's what happens is you make that decision without much information. It's an emotional decision. Like, here's what I want to do. And then, whether you realize it or not, the next thing that comes into play usually is, do I have the capital or the money to do that? That's usually the next thing, right?
Yeah.
And then you run across a guy like me or somebody, or me or somebody like me, and you're like, Then you handle that objection with yourself. Like, oh, maybe I don't need money. This makes sense. There's some logic here. So I want to go a little bit further. So the next question you run into is, how much time do I have to do this?
Right.
Like, how am I going to fit this in my already busy schedule? Okay. And then you'll go through some struggle with, I have 3 hours a week or 5 hours. And this is all usually subconscious. It's not like as analytical as I'm making it now. But it is the procedure.
In retrospect, you could see all this. But as it unfolds, you're just looking, you're kind of trying to find your way,
right.
What works. And
right. Right?
Yeah, all those things. Yeah.
So that's where I'm at right now. That's like the meat and potatoes, because that's where the wagon wheels fall off and you don't even realize it. And then you go down the road a little bit further and you start putting some money into it. You might go to a seminar, you might buy some books, you start putting time into it, you start doing what you call research.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And then depending on your personality or your ego or your bank check, your bank account, your checkbook,
mm-hmm.
you'll start dumping money into it, depending on how passionate you are of this goal. Yeah. Or it's not how passionate you are, it's how much you've convinced yourself that this is the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So now what happens is the more you read or the more familiar you get with it, or the more you run into those other people and say, hey, if he can do it, I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you start convincing yourself or selling yourself, it's you talking to you, the further you'll go. How am I doing so far?
Sure.
Right? So I know because this happened to me, and it happens to every one of my coaching clients.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So the point that I'm making is that the wheels fall off with the time management and the task matching.
Mm.
And you don't realize it, and then what will happen is you'll go on to the next step. So you say, I'm going to do this, and then you'll decide, okay, well, I could do this after work. I could do this on Saturdays. I'm laid off. I've got 3 months, whatever. There's all these ways that you'll figure out how to do it. And then you'll go into education mode.
Mm. Yeah, I was wondering when that part comes up, because you don't know what to do on this. Right? You have this great idea, but then it's not like, okay, I'm going to go down to the school and have adult classes. They'll teach me the whole thing. I'm going to go to the university, take 2 semesters. Doesn't exist, does it?
Right.
Nope.
So now you go on to this wild goose chase on who do you listen to. And then what happens is you'll try a couple things. So in the beginning, you'll be naive and you'll try a couple things. You won't understand them because you don't have the full picture.
Mm.
Usually you'll think you have you'll think you'll have the answers, but what happens is you'll get a conceptual understanding of that thing and get confused on the details because a lot of people don't teach it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you'll get confused on the details, and instead of sorting your own misunderstandings of the details out, you'll jump to another type of real estate. Mm-hmm. Like the first one you might want to learn how to buy tax liens.
Right.
And that doesn't work. So the next thing you know, you're buying foreclosures.
I bought that system. Yeah. I got all the way to the end and was like, okay, now you have to wait for the period to come around in your area where you go show up to buy stuff. And then, wait a minute, I need to pay for the liens. Damn it. Right. And you needed a bit. You need $8,000, $12,000, $7,000. You needed money. Like, okay, next.
Right.
Next one.
Where now you go over, okay, well, I'm not going to do tax liens. I'll do pre-foreclosures.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'll do rehabs. And you'll start blindedly throwing darts. Or start swinging at the piñata and keep missing.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
And you'll think that that's what the problem is, but actually what happened is the earlier gradient, which was the time management, was the out point.
Mm-hmm.
And it just showed up later. Am I making is this clear?
Yeah, but what about the lack of correct information you were talking about that was happening at the same time?
Right.
How do those two fit?
So I'm going to cover that.
Okay.
So let me go off into this. Let me tell you what I have. I have this tool or this guideline, and then we'll come back to that. Okay.
Yeah, because you're talking about that too. That the guy kind of lost track at the end and he shifted. So
I'm going to give you a formula that nobody has ever done before. But it is a formula, and it is actually something that I've strayed from. But when I was on this formula is when I did the best.
Oh, really?
And I'm writing this.
You haven't told me this one either?
No. I wrote this formula for myself. to get myself back on track, because I have a few distractions in my life, and I'm not, I'm doing tax stuff, and I'm not happy with what I did last year. I'm not unhappy. I mean, I did some amazing things, but I thought to myself, what happened?
Yeah, you could have done twice that, right?
And this is what happened. Ready?
Yeah.
So this is a breakdown of the most important activities any successful investor needs to live by and ensure success. You have to live by these. These have to be like burned in your skull.
Habits.
They should be your habits.
Is there anything beyond habits?
Yeah, right? If you don't follow this guideline I'm about to give you, you could possibly go months and months and months or years without doing deals and cashing those big checks. This is the reason why. You've been assigning the wrong why.
You've been blaming the wrong thing?
Yes. And assigning that thing the cause of your lack of success, and been trying to chase information and shiny objects to solve that problem when it's the wrong problem. Which is why you haven't been buying houses and making money.
Well, isn't it true that almost anything will work if you do it, and if you do it right? I mean, Amway, there's, all those things that come around, and people are so disappointed it didn't work, but there's always some guys that did. So I think everything that I've ever seen in my life, sell this, buy this, all of it can work and does work for some people. So
right,
what's the real problem? And I think you're onto something.
I'm right here.
Okay,
we're right here.
I have a backside of an envelope and a pen handy if the formula can be written down.
Here we go. Now, I want you to know that as soon as I start talking, you are going to resist what I'm saying, and you are not going to believe me. But I don't want your belief system right now. I just want you to clean the slate of your mind and just hear me out. Don't make any decisions. Don't even believe what I'm about to tell you.
Don't believe, don't disbelieve, just put it down there.
Just for right now, let's just talk about it. Okay? So here we go. 5% of your time. 5% of your time. Okay? Now, when I say your time, and I'm going to go over this with some examples, if you've got 20 hours a week or 40 hours a week or 3 hours a week, this is how it breaks down. Okay?
Like the time you're putting into something. So your working time.
We're talking about real estate. So if you, like we're going to talk about in a minute, if you allocate 20 hours a week, it would be 5% of 20 hours. Okay? 5% of your time is for education. 5%. And when I mean education, I mean new or review. Like with me, it's review. Because how many times have you and I gone to seminars that I've been to 3 or 4 times? How many books do I reread? How many, I know I'm not a video person, but how many materials do I cover again? And I'm going to tell you that is when you get really good, when you go back over materials after you've done deals and you start looking at it like, oh, these little nuggets of information become very clear to you, and you're like, wow.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And they save you tons of money or make you tons of money.
Sure.
So only 5%. I wrote this in an email the other day, and I got some feedback on this. Only 5% goes into your education. I'm going to explain how you can do this, okay?
I wrote that down.
Good. You ready for this one?
Sure.
This is frickin' amazing, Peter. I don't know how I came up with this, but it is for real. I mean, this is an extrapolation of my life. Okay? 40% of your time is for locating new sellers. 40% of your time is for locating new sellers. 15%, 15% of your time is for pre-screening.
Okay.
And the reason why those are different is because if you follow my system where you have the opening caller and the closing caller, they're two different tasks. Because the opening caller is deal hunting, and the pre-screener is the closing deals, the deal closer.
Oh, so what do you call the sellers part? So the 15% is pre-screening when you're doing the follow-up, and what's the sellers part? That's just, hunting.
So 40% is deal hunting. It's like you're out looking for new sellers.
Yeah.
You're looking for people that have, usually it's FSBOs.
That's all the calls. Yeah, that's all the calls you're making to find them.
That's the opening caller.
Yeah. And the 15 is when you're doing follow-up then to, not follow-up, just
15%
the close.
is, so the way the system is, you're not tracking with me.
So
the way the system is that there's an opening caller, there's a closing caller, and there's a deal meeting.
Right.
So the 40% is the opening caller, the 15% is the deal.
The closing
deal.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, sometimes that's all you, which we're going to talk about. So 15% of your time is for pre-screening. 25% of your time is for constructing and making offers. 5% of your time is for follow-up. Okay.
On those same offers, old offers,
follow-up.
Doesn't matter. The current ones, the old ones, right?
Follow-up.
Yeah. Because you got to follow up the current ones. They don't just happen. You got to call back.
Just follow up.
And the old ones, follow up. Okay.
Yep. 10% of your time is for selling quickly.
Are we at 100% now?
Yep.
Okay. When did you figure this out?
I don't know. It's been kind of cooking for some time. And I just decided, I've been thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. And just recently I was just like, I'm going to kind of like write this down and start keeping track.
So you've been kind of doing this when things are best running for you, but you just recently kind of formulated the numbers more exact. Okay. So you haven't been holding out on me then, right?
No, it's something that's evolved.
Okay.
I mean, really, it's just, and I'm gonna tell you in a couple minutes because this is only half of my surprise for you today. Okay.
Oh, this is helpful because I struggle with my time, and then something else happens, and an emergency, and then blah.
So let's break this down. So if let's get real with it. If you're gonna have 20 hours a week, like we were talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. Watch this. 1 hour. This is your 20 hours in a week. So this is 1 week. This is a 7-day week. Okay. 1 hour goes to education.
Yep.
8 hours goes to finding new deals or new sellers. 3 hours goes to pre-screening. 5 hours goes to constructing and making offers. 1 hour goes to follow-up. And 2 hours is for selling. Now, I have a few caveats here. So obviously, if you don't have a house to sell, it should go back into the time for finding new sellers. Okay. And if you don't have follow-up, that should go back into finding new sellers. So if you don't have some of these because you just started, then the lion's share, meaning the most amount of your time, should be in talking or finding new sellers.
Well, the way you have it explained, that's a flow. One thing flows to the next. So if the next isn't happening, you go earlier.
That's right.
And beef that up, and then you get the next thing, and then you'll wind up. Be careful, because I know how these things work. You can wind up at the end and lose the front end, right? If you're not careful.
So we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
So now, although these numbers might be amazing to you, okay, or completely taking you back, okay, especially the education part, because most people spend 40, 60, 80, 100% of their time educating themselves.
Well, would there be a time in the very beginning before somebody actually starts this, like to learn like how to do these steps? Or could somebody just study as they're doing all this? Was there a little bit up front to get going?
Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
If you have a house for rent,
Yeah.
and you advertise that house for rent, what are you trying to do?
I'm trying to rent the house.
Right. And what are you trying to do?
I'm trying to find a tenant.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
So what are you really trying to do? You're trying to find a tenant. So
Yeah.
does that mean you'll take a crack addict? He's a tenant.
No,
Why?
because it's not a good idea. It's not going to work out.
Okay, so what are you really trying to do?
You're trying to find a good one.
Okay, so what are you really trying to do?
You're trying to protect your investment and get somebody in there that won't make a mess out of things.
Okay, so what are you really trying to do?
I don't know. Trying to make money.
Good. So what are you really trying to do with your money?
Make it work best for you.
Okay, good. So we could do this for another 10 minutes before you figure it out, but I won't waste everybody's time. What you're really trying to do is you're trying to get monthly income that's safe.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're trying, your idea is to put somebody in there and have the least amount of work with the most amount of money. So you're trying to optimize whatever property you have. Optimize means get the most out of.
Right. So for any situation like that or anything similar, you have to have enough education to know how to do it and what the forms are.
No, you're way ahead of yourself.
Okay.
So you as a homeowner, Joe Blow homeowner, got divorced and you had this house, or you bought another house and you couldn't sell this house, and you're living somewhere else and you're an accidental landlord.
Yeah.
And now you're renting this house. Why are you renting this house? You couldn't sell it.
Right. And it's sitting there costing you money.
So what you're trying to do is you're trying to make it so that you can pay that money with somebody else's income and not yours.
Right.
So you're not trying not to take that out of your own income. Right?
Yeah.
So what are you trying to do? You're trying to find somebody that will pay that money, take care of the house, and give you the least amount of hassle.
Least trouble, the most. Yeah.
Okay? Consciously or subconsciously, that's what you're trying to do.
Sure.
Agreed?
Absolutely.
So a person that's renting something, almost 99% of them are looking for that, correct?
Sure.
Okay, good. So I'm a completely novice investor. I don't know anything about real estate. I call you up and say, hi, my name is Bill. I see you have 123 Main Street for sale. Let's role play.
Yeah.
Peter, my name is Bill. I see that you have 123 Main Street for rent.
Yes, I do.
Good. I have a question for you. If I come take a look at the place and we could strike a deal, would you be willing to rent it to me for a year or two and then sell it to me?
Rent it and then sell it. Yeah, I'd be open. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Perfect. At that point, you go make an appointment, go talk to the guy. Right? Then you sign a lease with an option agreement. And you could find these documents online. I mean, I have really good ones, but you can find them anywhere. Yeah. A realtor could do this for you. Ask a realtor for a lease with an option. It's in their MLS. They don't even know it.
Yeah.
They'll tell you, no, I don't have it. And you'll be like, go check.
That's so funny.
Okay. So how hard was that? Do you think that in 1 hour a week, after a week or two, you could search on Google and find a lease with an option?
Yeah.
Do you need a lot of education?
So, okay, so that answers my question. You can learn enough in that hour to do the little things you're doing right now. You don't need this whole long runway.
Okay, so now what happens is I go to your house and you're like, I kind of like this idea. Yeah, I'll give you $1,200 a month. And how much did you want? I want $78,000. Okay, I'll give you $78,000, but I want to be able to sublease it. Yeah, sure, no problem. Then I put an ad on Facebook or some signs around town, and I say, house for sale without bank qualifying. Because that's what it is. Do you think you're going to find someone?
Yeah.
I start showing the house. So now I rent the house I'm paying you $1,200. I rent it for $1,400 or $1,500.
Yeah.
And instead of selling it for $78,000, I sell it for, I don't know, $90,000.
Sure.
How much of an education do you need to do that?
Well, not a lot, as long as you have that system in your face and you're not like scouring to find it, to find you.
So I'm going to give you.
Right?
I'm going to give you the most. I don't even know what to call it. This is such a horrible thing to say. Such a horrible thing to say, but it's such the truth.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have common sense, don't do this.
Mm.
This is just common sense.
Yeah.
So what you're telling me is that you don't have common sense and you need to go get educated. This is common sense.
What?
You have a house for rent.
Yeah.
I called you up and said, would you be willing to rent it to me for a year or two and then sell it to me? You said yes. I went to the house. I don't need to be anybody like, I don't have to have any special sales skills. I don't have to, just be a regular person.
Yeah.
Talk to the guy or the girl and see if you can make a deal.
Mm-hmm.
When they say yes, I'm telling you, you can go on Google and type in lease with an option to purchase. You'll find these documents. They may not be the greatest document. You're not going to make your best deal and make $50,000 your first deal, but you could make an agreement with them.
Mm-hmm.
You could write it on a napkin if you had enough common sense.
Mm-hmm.
Go find a buyer. You will find a buyer. If it takes you 3 months, who cares?
Yeah.
You could do that and do your first deal.
It beats reading about it for 3 months.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you could, in 1 hour a week, after a couple of weeks, have enough information to go do this. Mm-hmm. Now, as you do your 1 hour a week, your 4 or 5 hours a month, you'll start getting more and more educated. But I'm going to tell you right now, Peter, I'm so like passionate about this. Mm. And you know this because you're with me all the time. Mm-hmm. There is only one way how to learn something. Only one way how to learn something. Mm. And that's do it. Mm-hmm. There is no other way to do it. Yeah. There is no other way to learn anything. I don't care about universities. I don't care about PhDs.
No, those guys, we're both educators. Those guys, I had a conversation yesterday with somebody, and I was talking about, the right way to learn something. I just mentioned that I like music and sports for young kids because you actually have to do something. You can't just sit there.
Right.
You can't just pass a test. And the guy goes, well, don't sell education short. I said, I'm not. It sold itself short. I had a girl up the street, got straight A's in high school, and I asked her, do you remember any of it? She said, no. There was no lag. So just reading about it isn't going to teach you. Well, but in yours, just my viewpoint on this, the first week you spend an hour learning, you could figure out how to talk to the sellers.
Right.
The second week you do another hour of study. You can figure out how to do the pre-screening step. Right. The next week you do the hour. You can figure out how to construct the offers bit. Right. The next week you can figure out how to do the follow-up, and the fifth week you can figure out how to do the selling. So that was my question originally, but the way you're putting it with your system, you could just learn the first thing the first week, the second thing the second week, and keep it simple. But you will learn as you go because you can't really appreciate something unless you've gone through the steps.
You'll remember it more.
Yeah, well, it's real.
I have a coaching client that put in an offer in a house the other day, and he put a cash offer in, and I told him, when he told it to me, I'm like, that's way too much money. Why didn't you show me the deal first? You're too busy, but no, you should show me the deal first. Uh-huh. He actually went to the house, and guess which deal the guy took?
The terms?
The cash deal.
He took, yeah, but it was too much?
It was too much.
Yeah.
So what happened?
The guy couldn't do it?
So he actually was looking to sign documents. I'm like, you're not signing those documents. Not under my turf. Not under my watch.
It was too high a price.
Yeah. He was $26,000 too high.
Okay.
Well, I did the formula. Yeah, you did the formula based on comps that aren't correct.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And it was a simple little thing. But here's my point. I had to pull the rug out of the deal. Mm. He'll never forget that.
Yeah, no, he'll learn that one. Because if he had gone through, he would have had a deal that would make about zero money.
I could have done 10,000 webinars with him. He would have still made that same mistake.
Yeah.
Until you put your hands on it and actually turn the nuts and bolts, you're not going to do it.
Yeah, but you know what the nice thing to me about it is? You're not committed until that moment you sign that final document. So you can go through some steps, and if it isn't quite right,
on a lease option, you're still not even committed because you could still leave and have no ramifications. Yeah, they're pissed off, but what are they going to do?
Yeah. That was a cash deal. That was more risky. This one, there really isn't any risk. But even on a risky thing, you have till the last minute to say, "Oh,
till you give him the cash, you don't have a deal."
Right. So even if you go through that one, which you're not even suggesting today, even the dangerous one, you can pull the plug at the end and get all that education up to that point and know what not to do and go back and do a terms deal instead.
So I don't know what else to say about this. I mean, we spent way too much time on it. The point is that you don't need to spend all your time educating. That is a lie, and that's why you're not making money. All right, so let's do this if you have 10 hours a week. Okay? If you got 10 hours a week, you're going to spend a half an hour a week on education. 4 hours looking for new prospects.
Yep.
1.5 hours pre-screening. 2.5 hours constructing and making offers. A half an hour for follow-up. And 1 hour for selling a house.
Bill, I like this.
Now, here's the thing. I'm going to make this comment. I'm not going to dwell on it. But here's how you do work.
Okay? Here's how you do work, folks.
Here's how you work. You do what you're doing while you're doing it. So if you only have a half an hour to do your follow-up calls, that means that there's no distractions.
Yeah.
You don't answer your emails. You don't answer your texts. You do your... How many phone calls could you make in a half an hour?
Yeah.
If you do just that without any distraction, any noise, anything like that.
Yeah.
Now watch this. If I were to have papers on my desk, and I were to pick up a piece of paper, and I were to look at that piece of paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I put the piece of paper back on my desk. What did I just do?
You just wasted a little bit of time because you didn't finish it. You have to pick it up later.
So I doubled my workload because I picked up the piece of paper. I didn't do what I needed to do with that piece of paper.
Later.
I put it down, and now that means I got to pick up that piece. I just doubled my workload.
You have to read it again. You go, oh yeah, that. And read it again. Like,
So the point is this: if I allocate time to take care of the papers on my desk, I do what each paper needs me to do right there and right then in present time. I don't do anything else. I don't let my mind wander. I don't let other things, come in. I don't do any of that. I do just that, and I give it my full attention, or I don't do it at all. It's either I'm all in or I'm all out. Okay?
Yeah.
And that's important.
No, it is.
So when you're making your half-hour follow-up calls, it's a half hour, for Christ's sakes. I mean, come on. Just do that. Don't do anything else. Just do that.
I read a good book by a guy, Clouden, I think, the dad of the guy who wrote the book on words.
Oh, Sean Clouden,
yeah.
Patrick Clouden.
Yeah. And he was talking about, when I get up in the morning, I don't do my emails. I don't do this stuff. I don't check my mail because I'll never get back. I just start doing my work. Right. I do the emails later, in free time, lunch or something. I just catch it later.
Right.
So he just gets kind of get going, which is like what happens if you have a job.
Right.
You don't do any of that stuff. You just kind of go to work.
Right.
But I like this because when I try to put my time aside, and I thought I was there yesterday and I blew it again, I try to just put time in. But this is like 5% to this, and I could squeeze.
So are you blown away?
Yeah, no, I like it. I like it.
I'm not done yet.
No, but let me just tell you why I like this.
I'm not done yet.
I know you're not, but let me tell you why I like this.
Go.
It's the generality of work on your real estate that's hard to do, the generality. This focuses me and hope focuses everybody listening. I was trying to put a little more time in reading this week to catch up on some stuff. I got some books from you, and I like them, but...
now you got an hour.
Yeah, well...
You got an hour to read. So when you sit down...
Yeah.
You could sit down in a comfortable place.
Yeah.
Preferably on the patio with a cigar.
Mm-hmm. Bill, it's freaking January. Hey, Saturday's going to be 60 degrees.
I know.
Unfortunately, the rain, but never mind. Yeah, no, this really
focuses. So now you could sit down and read a book on real estate or watch a video and not feel guilty because it's like your hour a week.
Yeah.
Now, suppose you don't have any houses to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well then take those 2 hours and use those for education for now.
Oh,
So now you can have 3 hours.
You can put it wherever you think you might need the work more.
Right. And you make a valid point, because when you start with your education, the first thing you're going to want to learn how to do is how to find new sellers.
Mm-hmm.
And then next week, you're going to want to figure out how to pre-qualify.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And if you're really stinking at the seller's part, read more about that.
Right.
If you had to.
Right.
And just keep reading that until you get it straight. And then you have one thing down and you're good.
That's right.
And it's not everything, but what do you need? You just need enough.
Good.
Okay.
So I'm going to move on.
Go ahead.
Okay. So now, although these numbers might be amazing, I just told you, right?
Yeah.
Or you might be completely taken back by it. I can't give them to you without being able to analyze what's going on first.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to tell you how to make your own tool to analyze what's really going on in your real estate business right now.
Okay.
You ready?
Well, I'm
so
going to
there's
take
no sense in giving you a tool.
Yeah.
Do you want him to go get your paper?
Oh, I got paper here. This is a wasteful. Somebody sent us something. I'm going to write on the back of this. I got this. This is good. This is useless. Makes use out of it.
So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to teach you how to do your own analysis.
What the task analysis?
I'm
Or
going
what?
to show you. Yes.
Task analysis?
So here we go. You ready?
Yep.
So grab a blank piece of paper, which you have. Okay. See, Pete, you can't follow instructions. You're already writing on the piece of paper, but I didn't tell you what to do yet. See, this is what happens. I'll leave it there. The point is that you're not listening to me. You're already writing on the piece of paper. Yeah, exactly. You don't know what to do. You don't even know what it is yet.
I just put a heading down.
So grab a blank
I'm
piece
used
of
to Bill
paper.
picking on me. It doesn't even bother me anymore. It's so lovely.
Paper, pencil, and a ruler. Okay? Then we're going to do this. So put at the top of the piece of paper, real estate task analysis. I'm sorry. It should be real estate task tracker. Real estate task tracker is the name of the document. Okay? And then under that, and all the way to the left of the piece of paper, make a column and call it date. And then to the right of the date column, just to the right, not the immediate right, yeah, you're going to make another column and you're going to call that activity. And then the next column is going to be called start. And the next column is going to be called, you're putting them too far apart. The next column is finish.
So 4 columns.
No, there's more.
Oh, too far apart?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll fix it later.
So it's start and then finish. Then the next column is total time. And then the next column is work type.
That's not activity?
Correct. So that means you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns.
Wait a minute. 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, so we have the date.
Activity.
Oh, activity. I didn't count activity. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Now that you have all the columns, you're going to make a row on the bottom of the piece of paper. Okay. And that row is from left to right, obviously in a row. And you are going to put these there. So you're going to put first total time. Then you're going to put education percentage. Then you're going to put locating new client percentage. So I would just put new client or locating new client percentage. Then you're going to put pre-screening percentage. Oops. And then you're going to do making offer percentage. And then follow-up percentage. Selling percentage. and other percentage.
Oh. Where'd that come from?
Yeah. So here's how we're going to use this tool. Okay? I want you to write down every real estate task you do on this form for the next consecutive 7 days. So if you're working 20 hours a week, okay, every time you say, I'm going to work on my real estate, when you're done with that task or done with the day, you need to log your time.
Would you believe I was trying to think of something like this to get me motivated or keep track of myself? 'Cause I've made like stat sheets, this, but it wasn't like a tracker like this.
This is an analysis. You only do this for a week.
Okay.
And you could do this, once a month. Every once in a while, you can review. Now, once you track which by the way, I'm going to have Emma make one of these sheets and we're going to upload it.
Yeah.
So for right now, so you can get started, you could just do this, okay?
Yeah.
So you do your 7 days, you do your tasks for 7 days, and you write down your activity each time you do it. And you don't even have to do it like per column. Just write down what you did. Okay, don't worry about what column it goes into. You can worry about that later.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're going to do an activity like, I went to 67 Laurel Heights to check on it.
Other? Or is that
so
selling?
That would be selling.
Selling. Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Or, I went online to search for a
refrigerator.
Property. Yeah, for a refrigerator. Yeah.
I bought a refrigerator at Home Depot.
That would be other.
I texted the tenant, will you be there on Saturday for delivery?
Right.
I texted the tenant again, did you get my text?
So this is very valuable that you're doing this for me, because you writing them down on a piece of paper and actually talking about it gives me a really good perspective on what the listeners are going to go through.
Yeah.
So I want to make a very loud, very obnoxious, very unusual statement.
Okay.
So what you just said has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but it's in your life.
Yeah.
So we have apartments, and you had to go buy a refrigerator, and you had to get it delivered, and you had to coordinate it with the tenant.
Yep.
Technically, that has nothing to do with our real estate business. That's actually, you're actually being a property manager. It's another business.
That's right. It's the manager. Sure.
So
which we're doing for now, and one day we hope to shed.
Right.
But we're learning how it works now, so we can shed it with some knowledge of it.
So just keep that thought there.
That's
because
good.
I'm going to cover that in a minute. It's not the real estate business that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
But I'm gonna tell you how to handle that.
Sure.
I'm going to give you a solution to handle it. So we're going to do this self-analysis type of project, right? So we're going to do this self-analysis because I just gave it to you. So for 7 days, track your activity. Okay. And things like what I just said to you, like you're doing the refrigerator and you think you're doing real estate and you should be doing that in your 20 hours is going to pop off the page.
Yeah. Cause I'm really trying to do this, but I run into problems, and I'm not going to come to you, hey, guess what happened to me today? 'Cause I'm not trying to put problems in your world. You got enough of your own. But, as an analysis to help sort things out and get our work together working better, if I do this a week or 2 or 3,
right,
we can see. Because, this might not work out good in 1 week. You might have to, I think I'd like to refine this over a few weeks personally.
Yeah.
I think it'll take a few weeks, like you talk about time blocking.
Yep.
It doesn't fix itself in 1 week.
Right.
It's like you're trying to make a life that is not what you've been anyways. But 1 week, and if it doesn't work, damn it, do it again and get it to work.
Right.
But I like the ratios.
Right. So if anybody's doing this and has any questions or wants any help, go to flippinghousesforrookies.com. On the top right-hand side, it says contact us, and those support tickets come to me, and send me a support ticket, and I will help you with this.
Yeah, but don't contact me yet until I figure this out. And then when that'll happen, I'll let you know. Until then, don't ask me.
So I'm not done yet. I still have a little bit more.
It's only 58 minutes. Go.
Yeah. See, why your real estate activities are not producing the returns you're expecting is because of this time management. Just what you're saying. It indicates to you because you're just, the way we do these podcasts is you have no idea. You show up on Thursday morning and we improv it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how this podcast was designed 183 podcasts ago.
Yeah, I'm the listener.
Right.
And if I have the question, you might have the question, so I ask.
Right.
And if I think you're going to have a problem, I ask because I might have the problem.
Now, we've been talking about part 1. I told you I broke this down in 2 parts, right?
I thought this was part 2 here.
No.
All right.
So now let's get into part 2.
Okay.
So part 2 is making offers.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't do that, you aren't going to do deals.
Right.
And the reason why I'm coming up with this is because I'm actually undercutting making offers because people aren't making offers. So I'm undercutting it. Why aren't they making offers? The reason why they aren't making offers is because they have all these distractions and misallocating their time and not doing, because making offers, what are the 2 biggest numbers on my chart? 40% for finding new people and 25% for making offers.
Yeah.
Those are the most valuable portion of your time. That's 65% of your time is doing those 2 things. And you're not doing them.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not getting results.
Right.
Is this making sense?
Of course.
Okay, good.
Sure.
So part 2 is making offers. Now, listen to me closely, Peter, because this you're going to love. I wrote this in an email the other day. Now, constructing and making offers is by far the most crucial part of your business. If you don't put those opportunities out there, you won't have them. Okay? And it is to never be left out of your control. The 2 parts of the business you don't ever not control is the marketing and the offers. This can't be outsourced, but everything else can. Or if you do outsource it, you need to be the decision point. It's kind of like Dan Kennedy says, the only 2 things you don't outsource or you don't allocate in any business is the marketing and the checkbook, which he's really wrong, because you could, if you have a system in place and have policy in place and successful actions, which is policy. Policy is successful actions that somebody else can follow, right? If you have that in place, then they can do the work, and they got to bring it to you to get authorized. Like, can I run this marketing piece?
Right.
Or can I spend this money? In this particular case, in a real estate business, it would be, can I do this marketing? Because it's something new, or it's an ad that hasn't been tested. And or can I make this offer? In other words, can I go, you normally you're buying $200,000 houses, and you got a slamming deal on an $8 million house. Can I make this offer? Right? So they can be outsourced, but that's so far down the road for most people right now that we don't need to talk much about it.
Right, but you're still making the decisions, because it's your business, it's your life. You're making decisions.
Right.
And you can have people do some of the footwork for you, though, no?
Right.
The footwork.
Yeah.
You call the shots, and you have.
For right now, we're not going to talk about that. So now. Okay. Now I'm not here teaching you about making offers and marketing. Okay, that's already been done, or we keep talking about. It's a huge part of this formula. It's a huge part of this formula, because if your marketing and your offer making isn't in, then you don't have a business. You are, which is what I called a counterfeit real estate entrepreneur. Okay. Today's email, I've been on a rampage with my emails. If you're not on my email list, you should get on my email list. Just go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff and just download something and get on my list. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. If you ever feel you're not sure what path you're walking down, keep reading the emails. It'll keep you on the right path.
Right.
That's the point.
So today's email is going from solopreneur to entrepreneur in real estate. And I actually wrote half of it, and then I lost it. I pushed the wrong button. All right. Yeah. It happens sometimes.
You serious?
Yeah, it pissed me off, but whatever.
Try Control Z.
Yeah, I do that.
Oh shit.
Control Z. Yeah, that's not the right. Yeah. All right, ready?
Yeah.
Here's some shocking news. This is not hype. This is shocking news. This is another piece of information that you haven't thought of that is stopping you from doing deals and just haven't seen it. All offers are not equal. You have MLS offers. You have REO, real estate own offers. You have probate offers. You have vacant house offers. You have code violation offers. You have divorce offers. You have excessive lien offers. You have tax delinquents offers. You have pre-foreclosure offers. You have multiple house payment offers. You have burned out landlord offers. You have ugly house offers. You have pretty house offers. Out-of-state owner offers. Expired listing offers. High equity offers. Free and clear offers, inherited house offers, and probably more that I couldn't even think of.
Yeah, I saw that list. That was interesting. Lots of offers, Bill.
Here's my point. Once you know your business plan, basically from how much capital you have and how much you have access to, you'll be able to make your decision. What types of houses you would like. That's usually the decision point early on, like how much money do I have or how much do I have access to. So if you have money, right, and you are able to do deals and you have houses that are available to you in your area, then you could go do those MLS deals and those renovations and those, buy liens, and if you have money or have access to money.
Right.
Or as I call it, go get a bank loan. If you can go get a bank loan, then do that. Right? I didn't even go, when I did offers, I didn't go into multifamily. I didn't go into rentals. I didn't go into commercial. There's like so many different kinds of offers. Here's what you're going to do. In the beginning, we just talked about the offer that you're going to make, the very first offer you're going to make. If you're brand new and this is your first day on the job, is going to be a rent to own. Go to a person that's renting a property and ask them if you can pay them, if you could lease it for a year or two, and then buy the house. That's your first type of offer you're going to learn how to do. And then as you spend your hour worth of educating, the only thing you need to worry, once you figure out how to get leads, which I'm going to tell you how to do that in a minute. But once you figure out how to get leads, the next thing, your hours worth of education should be spent on how to make offers.
Sure.
That's it.
Just keep, in your model, it's like learn what you need to do right now. Don't try to learn the whole thing. Then learn the next step and just go along and do the steps.
That's how I did it.
Yeah.
I learned how to do subject to deals first because that gravitated to me, and it was like, I could buy houses with somebody else's mortgage. I could do that. And I did one deal, and then I did another deal. And I've always said ever since the beginning, when you cast a net and you pull the fish in, there's going to be one that you like, the one that could be done. Your first, the encounter, your encounter with your first motivated seller that is willing to do that specific type of a deal with you will predicate doing more of those deals because he'll get you through the entire deal. You'll learn enough about it.
Yeah.
And then you'll become a specialist with that type of a deal.
Let's do that again.
Exactly.
Well, at least you know how to do one.
That's right.
Why go looking for other fish when you got that one?
So my point is that's why you only need an hour's worth of education, because once you get a little bit of education, not a lot, a little bit of education under your belt, and you start you do one type of a deal. Like you said, figure out how to find sellers, which I have all that stuff on flippinghousesforrookies.com. Top right, the top, it says courses. There's $37 courses, $67 courses that you can go do in an hour a week or 2 hours a week and learn how to start getting people calling you or start finding sellers.
Yep.
Okay.
They're there.
They are there, right?
I mean, they're all over the place. Houses sell all the time.
So once you figure out what types of deal in your area, once you figure that out, you need to point your marketing at those sellers and start attracting them. So if you don't have money, God, I get so frustrated with this because I'm on my internship and I'm talking about, because I have this whole program I'm doing right now where I selected 15 people and we're on a call on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Monday, I teach them the theory or the basic idea. Wednesday, I actually do it. And then on Friday, they do it. Right? And we do this for 4 weeks. And at the end, they have a complete lead machine set up. Okay. And if you want to learn about this, it's closed right now. But if you want to learn about this, go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/internship. It's not a course. It's not anything yet. It's just something I'm doing. Right. And I have people on this freaking call saying to me, does this work for pre-foreclosure? And I snapped. Like, do you have a checkbook full of money? Pre-foreclosure means that you have to catch up payments and they didn't have any money. They haven't been paying a mortgage payment, so they haven't been taking care of the house, so it's going to need repairs. No. Wow. What I'm teaching them how to do is how to find slot deals, a sandwich lease option transfer, and a rent to own, because that is the easiest place. So my exact point is, why pick something that if your environment or your life is not set up that you got tons of money in the bank to go buy pre-foreclosures or MLS properties, why are you on the MLS?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me.
I remember those early days when we started working together. I hadn't figured out everything, but I watched other people in the audience asking those kind of questions. They just hadn't thought it through or something. It's bizarre. Like, the words just don't mean anything, or they haven't thought through what's going to happen next.
All right, so let me give you an example. Okay.
Crazy.
One, you like I was just talking about. You have funds and are a contractor.
Okay.
By trade.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you point your marketing machine at ugly houses, right? And vacant houses, and the MLS, and pre-foreclosure, and probate, et cetera, because you're a contractor and you have money or have access to money.
Yeah. Your whole family's a contracting family.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Right? Because you could take what you're already doing and enhance it.
Yeah.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just add a wheel. Right? And go faster. Okay? So number 2, you have no capital or no money and know nothing about renovating. Well, you would point your marketing machine at a pretty house.
I'm sorry. I just remembered a couple that you took on a little visit. We went to see a house that we were looking at buying, right?
Yeah.
And they're standing there and like, oh, we'd love to do this. And you go, well, do you have any money? No. You know where to borrow some? No. Do you know how to renovate a house? No. You know any contractors? No. It's like, what the hell?
Right.
I did it with a friend of mine. Like, I want to get in the business. I asked all the questions. He couldn't do any of it. Like, what the hell do you want? I just want to make a lot of money. Good luck.
Right.
And you want to like follow me around or you and just make money somehow? Like, no.
Right. So if he's like that, then you would point your marketing machine to pretty houses, right? To owners like divorce, where you can take over payments, right? People that have 2 payments. They got 2 houses that are paying, they have 2 payments, right? Because they bought a house and couldn't sell their last house.
Yeah.
Right? Out-of-state owners, free and clear people, people that have high equity. In other words, pretty houses that don't need renovations, and they're willing to take payments for a year or 2 until you can pay them off. And you could either do a slot deal, a sandwich lease option transfer. And if you don't know what that is, go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff. Scroll down to the bottom of the page and watch the videos. Okay? Or do a rent to own or a lease option.
Yep.
Then you don't need to know all that stuff. You don't need to. Can you figure it out later? Yes, if you follow my formula and you do your hour a week in education, or 2 hours because you don't have a house to sell, you do 2 or 3 hours, then you can learn how to do that. But for right now, you don't need to know everything about real estate. Just go do a lease option deal somewhere, somehow. I promise you there's one in your neighborhood. There's one a mile from you. There's one right around the corner if you just pay attention. Go to Craigslist and look up rental properties and make 2 or 3 phone calls a day. Matter of fact, don't make phone calls. Text them.
Yeah.
Just text them.
Yep.
Is 123 Main Street still for sale?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Next question. Are you the owner? Yes. Third question. You're texting this.
Mm-hmm.
Third question. Would you be willing to lease it for a year or two and then sell it? Question mark. If the answer is yes, you call them. You fill out the prospect suspect form that you get on my free site, flippinghouses4rookies.com, free stuff, and just ask them how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms. You don't even have to ask them anymore how much the mortgage is because you don't care. You're going to rent it from them with an option to purchase it in a year or two. And then you're going to go find a seller. This is not hard.
Find a buyer.
Yeah, find a buyer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I got a little passionate there. Okay, let's finish up here. You ready?
Yes, sir.
If you have some capital, and I don't mean a lot, because some people have like jobs and they have money, they have income coming in, they just don't like their job, they want to fire their boss, and they want to do something different. Mm-hmm. If you're that person and you're working 40 plus hours a week, okay, you can fire your real estate machine up and should think with this plan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? 1, ready for this? Get
Sure.
your notes out. Watch this. This is freaking cool. To me, this is the best part of the podcast.
Okay.
Number 1, hire a VA, a virtual assistant, to do the 40% locating new sellers.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some pre-screening and the follow-up. Having a good VA do this alleviates about 60% of your time. You can hire a VA from the Philippines that speaks very good English for between $2 and $5 an hour. These are not from the Philippines, but I was using for a very long time a website called Ask Sunday.
Yeah.
AskSunday.com. And they're from India and they're okay. They can do a lot of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they're fairly cheap. We're now using people from the Philippines, for $2 to $5 an hour. The point is this. You can get somebody to work 5 to 8 hours a day. I usually do 5 hours. You should start off with 5 hours a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
For about $400 a month. And they take 60% of the tasks that we're talking about. This is why it's so, the percentages I'm giving you is so magical, because you can break them up and say, I like making offers, so I'm going to obsess on making offers.
Mm-hmm.
And outsource the rest.
Yeah.
But you know how much you're going to have to spend on the outsourcing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you give your VA things to do, you know that 40% of her time should be in finding new sellers. Right? And the other 15% is pre-qualifying time. So when she does her 5 hours a day, you tell her this is how many hours you do looking for new sellers, and this is how many hours you do pre-screening. It makes her tasks easier.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now that leaves you with about 40% to do. Things like education, making offers, and selling.
Yeah.
And nowadays, to be honest, if you're doing a rent to own, when you sell, you use realtors. Especially for the rent to own stuff, because it's cheap. I used to have acquisition sales managers and all. Acquisition manager, sales manager. It doesn't have to be that way. Just pay the realtor, in most cases, 1 month's rental fee, and they'll do all the work for you. Mm-hmm. They'll advertise it. They'll show it, and they'll do the contract for you. You give them your contracts. I give them my contracts, but you give them, and if you're part of my program, you can get my contracts, right? So, which, by the way, for those of you that don't know this, about 2 months ago, Emma and I released a specific course. It's not a course. I don't even know what to call it. A product that has all my documents in it.
Oh.
which took me 15 years to talk myself into it. So if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com and you go to the top page where it says courses, you'll see in there a portal that says get all Bill's documents. So if you don't want to do my training, you don't want to do my coaching, you want to just get my documents, go there. You can buy them. Okay?
Yep.
Just go there. Mm-hmm. Okay? So now if you actually get the realtor to sell your houses for you and give them, because you're selling on a rent to own, right?
Yeah. Well, this is how rentals happen. If you use a realtor to do a rental for you, this is how it goes. It's
their system.
I was talking to my friend of mine who was a broker for a while. They used to do half a month from the owner and half from the buyer. They'd have them chip in half.
Right.
So it's whatever it is. It's been going on for years and years. It's not some
once
new
you
crazy
do volume,
system.
you can get a realtor that takes half a month's rent. Once you start doing volume.
Mm-hmm.
But pay attention to this.
Yes.
Pay attention to this, because these are absolute jewels. Do you need to use a realtor?
No.
Who else could you use?
Facebook.
Nope.
Oh,
find a good property manager that already has a bunch of leads coming in for their properties that they can't use or don't want to use, or they want to, instead of an apartment, they want something bigger, and let the property manager find a deal for you.
So they have people that are looking for rentals?
So think of it this way. Does a property manager manage just one property?
No.
They usually, like for example, what was her name? Naomi had 70 or 80 properties. Right? So she's already got a machine set up to locate renters. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
And she shows properties every day. Because with 70 or 80 properties, she actually hired someone to just show properties.
Yeah.
So she pays that person according to what she makes. So could you go to a property manager and say, why don't you rent my property for me?
Yeah.
And oh yeah, by the way, for 8% money, 7 or 8% money, you can manage the property too, so you don't even have to do that. So the selling is easy, because you can go to a property manager and just have them find and then pay them 8% of the. So where's the calculator? So if you got a property that's $1,500, right? So $1,500 a month, right? Times 8% is $120 a month. So if you got a 40-hour-a-week job and you don't want to be bothered with somebody with toilets and shit like that, so pay them the $120 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. The property manager.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that takes 10% of it away, right?
Yeah.
Because now you don't have to do the selling, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now that leaves you with 5% for education, right?
Yeah.
And 25% for constructing and making offers.
And follow-up? Would you still do follow-up, right?
No, you can have the VA do the follow-up.
Oh, okay. But you're getting closer to not having to work here.
So we're down to what, 6 or 8 hours a week?
Yeah.
If you set the machine up.
Yeah. See, that's the problem. They always promise, a few hours a week you can do this, but to get it to work right, until you get it working right, you're working.
Right.
Or not making it work right.
So it changes the whole investing scene when you can hire a VA for $3 to $5 an hour. Right,
and that is normal. That's good pay for them in
that's right.
in that economy. That just translates to something from our economy. Theirs, that's fine. They're happy with that.
Yeah, the conversion.
It's not like slave labor. This is their economy. That's good money for what they have to pay. Their
exactly
rents,
right.
How much food costs. It works.
Well, they've become the elite.
Yeah, they're actually in better shape than other people who work for $2 a day.
So for $400 or $500 a month, if you have capital, right, and some basic training, which we're creating now, and we're going to have soon, because this new internship program I have, it's actually going to have 4 segments to train your VA, right? So we don't have that now, but I'm working on that and the internship, right? And you can run a multi-million-dollar business. What was missing? The breakdown of the time.
Yeah.
How much you spend on each one of these tasks. It's not, it was the wrong gradient. You were blaming it on the later things. It's like an auto mechanic not knowing how to fix a car, but he never studied lawnmowers. a basic engine.
Right.
Right.
Well, for me, it helps me just focus. Like,
Well,
instead of doing 100% of a job, which is a lot, just try to do the 40% part or the 5% part. That's easier.
Let me back up to the analogy of, because I don't think you got that. So a car engine has 6 cylinders or 6 spark plugs or 8 cylinders or 8 spark plugs because it goes fast. Yeah. Right. So it needs that. A lawnmower has 1. So if you didn't learn how 1 works, how are you going to know how the 6 or the 8 works?
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
That's the point. So that's what this is like. Exactly what you're saying. So most of you jump in and you try to work on an 8-cylinder engine, and you didn't learn what the 1-cylinder, how it runs. How does a combustion engine run? What are the basics of a basic 1-cylinder engine? Why does it work? You know, what's the gas and the oil have to do with it? What's a spark plug got to do with it? What is compression? You know, all these things. Sure. I'm giving everybody a bunch of misunderstood words, but you know, all these things that you don't know about.
Well, we should know at least how an engine basically functions because we drive them all day. Just have some clue.
Right. But in this particular case, if you do a lease option or a rent to own, you buy one and you sell one, that's like working on a 1-cylinder engine.
Yeah.
You get the basic concept of how real estate works and how a deal works and the flow from start to finish, the 1 through 10 steps that we talk about. That's not 10, but that's the analogy. Like you go through the whole deal of like buying it, doing the contract, selling it, you know, all that stuff. Then you can go on to another deal and do a renovation or do something. That's a renovation's like working on an 8-cylinder engine.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's like all these moving parts and all this stuff, and they're you know, the first cylinder's got to work with, and you got to have timing, and you got to have, you know, all this other stuff that has to go around this 8-cylinder engine, and you're trying to work on an 8-cylinder engine, and you never figured out how to make a lawnmower work.
Sure. And the deck has a crack in it, and there's no cord to pull it.
Right?
Right. Hey, before you end, if people have been listening to the show, they might have a clue, but if they haven't been hearing, could you just say in 30 seconds what the money is on one of these things? Like generally how much money you make? Because rental doesn't sound like you're making a lot of money. Can you just real quick?
So
that's our reward at the end of this. Like how much money?
So here's the deal. First thing I want to cover before I do that, and then I'll go into the money. But there's another question that I think you should ask before that.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between a slot deal, which is a sandwich lease option transaction, and a rent own, which is really a sandwich deal too? Yeah. So here's the difference. A slot deal, a sandwich lease option transaction, okay?
Transfer.
Transfer. I'm sorry. Yeah, transfer. I keep saying that. That's the old way.
Yeah.
So sandwich lease option transfer. They're asking, so because there's 2 places to make money with real estate, with the equity and with the payments. So a slot deal is done when there is no equity and there is no payments. What you do is you go sell the property and make $3,000 to $5,000 or $10,000.
Yeah, it's a little too tight of a deal, but you can make the deal is so tight everybody walks past it. But you can make that deposit.
Right. And the way you make that money is you increase the equity because the person buying the house is willing to pay a little bit more for it because they're making payments.
Yeah, so the house costs a little bit more, but they're grateful because they're in a bit of a pickle.
Instead of selling a house for $210,000, you'll sell it for $220,000, and they'll get a $10,000 deposit. And so a sandwich lease option transfer. You don't stay in the deal. You grab your fee and you leave. And a lease option or a rent to own is you have, and this is the difference between them. This is how you tell whether you have one or the other. If you have a minimum of 15% equity and around 25% cash flow of the payment, okay, then you stay in the deal. Now, those are rule of thumb. The 15% is not, but the cash flow, if you got, you know, if you're happy with making 15 or 20% cash flow, that's okay. You'll regret it later because, you know, 6 months or a year down the road when everybody's being annoying and you're not making enough money, but you got to go through that lesson yourself.
Okay.
But the 25% is a rule of thumb. So if you can make 15%, okay, equity and 25% cash flow, then you do a rent to own, which means you rent from your buyer. I'm sorry. You rent from your seller. So let me give you an example. So with your seller is willing to sell to you for $100,000, and the payment's $500 a month.
Right.
So you're going to sign a lease with an option agreement. The option agreement is going to say you're buying for $100, and the lease is going to say you're going to pay $500 a month.
Yep.
You're going to write a separate document to your buyer that says they're going to pay $125 and pay $1,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
2 separate transactions.
Yep.
But you're in the middle because your seller doesn't know what you're getting from your buyer, and your buyer doesn't know what you're getting from the seller because they're 2 different deals.
Right.
With a slot deal, it's not that way because your seller, you take the paperwork that you do with your seller, the lease and the option, and you transfer them to your buyer so your buyer knows exactly what you did with the seller and your seller knows exactly what you did with the buyer, and everything's transparent.
Yeah, and they know you made some money because that's your fee for doing the deal. Right. Like a realtor gets their money, that's fine. If someone doesn't like it, they're stupid.
And that's
it's just fine. It's just fine.
So to answer your question, it really comes down to how much the property is, the median price ranges in your area, and how much. It's kind of common on a slot deal to make at least $3,000. Often it's $5,000. So you can find a slot deal and make $5,000 fairly easy. It's kind of like wholesaling pretty houses.
Right.
It's about the same. If you find a rent to own and you're doing a lease option, which is the same thing, a rent to own or lease option, it's very common that you could make that same $5,000 up front, but all of a sudden start making $200 or $300 per month, and then have $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 in the back end. Yeah.
So when they purchase the house, they get the mortgage, everybody gets paid. That equity winds up cash.
Right.
That's because you got a better deal from what you bought the house and sold the house. There's money there. So there's your 10, 15, 20 grand, whatever you can pull.
Right.
So all in all, there's some money now, there's some money in the middle, there's some money at the end.
Right.
So if you just do one deal, it's not like, wow, I'm going to be rich. But what if you do one deal and then you do another deal?
What if you do one a year? At the end of 5 years, what do you got?
I mean, that's not bad at all. You have one of those coming in.
Right.
Every year you got a chunk of cash coming in. But if you can do one, you can do 2, you can do 4. Things to learn how to do one.
That's right.
Then get
do the
one.
1-cylinder engine first, the lawnmower. Work on the lawnmower first, and then we'll start working on the 6-cylinder engine or the 4-cylinder engine. Actually, we'll work on 1 cylinder, then we'll work on a 4-cylinder engine, then we'll work on a 6-cylinder engine, then we'll work on an 8-cylinder engine, and then we'll have you go to the racetrack and start working on the big engines.
12?
No, but they're fast.
Okay.
You could do 12, but
no. Right. But even if you did one, and then another one, and then another one, then another one, it's a lot of lawnmowers.
Yep. That's exactly right.
Okay.
So, how am I single-handedly going to end the cruel crisis of counterfeit or fake real estate investors with this podcast? Right? So, I started off with the bold promise in the beginning of how I am going to single-handedly end the cruel crisis on counterfeit or fake real estate investors. Have I done that?
Yes. You should have a sign-up sheet for fakers. All fakers, sign here.
So now I expect you to get some results that have lots of zeros at the end of them.
Hey, in all fairness, a lot of us fakers or them fakers, we really wannabes. I'm half a wannabe. I've made some progress. I've done work with you, but I'm not happy with where I am. And I want to get maybe I'm halfway there. I don't know. But a lot of wannabes, they just want to be. And I think this is really helpful.
Well, you've fallen in love with the idea of having a check. A big check now.
Well, I've had some.
Monthly. Yeah, and you want to do it more.
Sure. And it's just not enough. And I could do more. It was how you felt. Like, it wasn't bad, but we could do more, right? So if anybody hasn't done anything, this gets you over the finish line.
Most are solopreneurs. And the difference between a solopreneur and an entrepreneur, do you know what the difference is? It's one word.
Organization?
No. It's close. Systems.
Yeah.
So the difference between a solopreneur and an entrepreneur is not whether they have systems, but have they wrote them down and made them duplicatable for others to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
Yeah. You're turning it into a business more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, one of the things that I figured out, and you know this, and this is the last thing we'll do, one of the things I figured out is with apartment buildings, and you know this because I said it and you were like, oh my God, you're right. Right?
Which?
So when you go buy apartment buildings, what I realized or what I recognized, which was very obvious to me, is you buy these ma and pa operated buildings, right, that have 50, 75, 100 units, and they're running them themselves. They have their fingers on everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like how much the maintenance, and they have shitty records, and they don't have QuickBooks. They don't have any of that. They just kind of do it on because that's all they do.
Yeah, and they've had it so long that they may have paid it off. So whatever money they make,
right.
There's no debt pulling profit down, so they make some money. They think they're doing okay, but they get tired of it.
Where we make our money, our biggest value added is we take that ma and pa store and we take it from a solopreneur and turn it into an entrepreneur. In other words, we take it from a ma and pa store and we turn it into a business.
Yeah, so instead of like being an employee or employer, a worker, it's a business.
So we put a management company in, and we put a accounting system in, and we start making some rules and some policies, and we reposition the tenants, we reposition the property, and then when we're all done, it's a business that someone could buy and go get financed because there's systems in place with income and predictable income and predictable debt and predictable equity and predictable profit.
We make it turnkey.
So what we do is we take it from a mom and pa and turn it into a business. And basically you're doing the same thing here with single family houses. You're taking it from a mom and pa or somebody that's stuck with a property, and you turn it into, and you give the opportunity to somebody else, and you turn it into like a little business.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
So please give me reviews. Go to Flipping Houses for Rookies, top right-hand side. It says podcast. Just click on that link, and there's a link there that says iTunes. That's where I like them. I mean, you could put them other places, but I like to look at them on iTunes. And also go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff. There's a bunch of stuff there. And like I said earlier, Emma doesn't know this, but in the next couple of days, I'm going to have her make this analysis form that I'm talking about, because I have a design for it. And once we do that, we'll upload it to the free page stuff. So if you haven't been to the free page stuff, you should go there, because we usually add stuff, every 3 or 4 weeks, we'll add something new. It keeps building. There's a lot of stuff there. So you should go back there, not often, but every once in a while, and just see if there's anything new or something that you missed.
Yep.
Okay. So as soon as I get that document, the analysis document that we were talking about, the real estate task document, so you can evaluate your time, we'll upload it and you guys can use it. But in the meantime, you know what to do based on the podcast. So I hope you enjoyed the show. We're over and out.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.